All right, we're now recording. So this may end up on YouTube, so I'm just going to be like, hi, everybody. I'm the PM for Secure, and we're going to go over what I'm hoping to look at in 12.3. And this is the chance for everybody to kind of ask questions, let me know if I missed items, and then you guys can spend the week reviewing and let me know if there's anything else we need to dig into. So I went through the backlog for all the S1P1, S2P2 bugs, and there was a total of 5 of those. So those are placed in the top 5 spots just because I'm trying to keep our bugs under control. So it looks like this one was originally in for 11.11 and kind of snuck out. So it's back in now. And that's, looks like a UX change mostly. It's tagged with front end and no back end, so I don't think there's any back end work for it. For license management for .NET Core, this one doesn't have front end or back end tags. I don't know if anyone's really done an evaluation on this one yet, because
this is backend. I'm just adding it. This is backend, and this is actually needing investigation because this is probably tied to the upstream project.
Okay. So a perfectly legitimate finding could be that we cannot fix this because of an upstream issue, or that there's a prerequisite, but.
Yep.
All right, so I've tagged that one in. Dependency scanning for Maven multi-project fails. And this one I'm assuming is only backend, but it's missing tagging.
Yep.
And then dependency list contains duplicates because of the MPM project.
Backend also.
Right. And then our last bug that I was able to find in the backlog was we're not in sync with this website.
Yeah, packages.org is the registry for PHP packages. This is backend only, and actually this might be delayed to next milestone depending on the outcome of the engineering discovery about whether or not we want to keep the existing client-server architecture for Gymnasium. I just added a comment just before the meeting.
So for right now, let's push that to 12.4. And then if we can just close it out after this item gets done, we'll close it out. But for right now, at least let me put a backend item on it. All right, so that's all of our bugs. The next big item is Docker in Docker removal for dependency scanning. This one has been customers complaining about the need for Docker in Docker. Apparently it leads to overly complex items. So across all of our different scans and tools, we're looking to get rid of it. And this one seems to have like a proposal with a plan in it, but has this one actually been thought through thoroughly enough that we know exactly what we need to do?
We quite have a good idea about what to do. We don't have a very detailed implementation plan, but more than that, this is blocked by several prerequisites that are currently being done in 12.1 and 12.2. So
are any of them that are in 12.2 stretch goals or likely to push?
Yeah, they are all deliverables, but I think some are likely to be pushed because it requires a lot of refactor on the front end, and they've not done yet everything in 12.1. So hopefully this will be done in 12.2. I know that SCA team is also working on the exact same issue for SAST, because SAST and dependency scanning share the same orchestration layer. So if they finish in 12.2, then we will already have the implementation path and just have to replicate it for dependency scanning. Otherwise, if they are pushing it to 12.3, this means two teams will work on the same exact implementation plan in the same release. So I'd say, depending on the outcome of a SaaS issue, we should either just follow what they've done or postpone this one, or work together and just wait for one implementation to be done and replicate it to the other, because there's no point of having two teams working at the same time on the same issue.
Now the SAST one, is that scheduled for 12.2?
Yeah.
All right. If that does not complete in 12.2, this will push to. All right. I will find that issue. I'm going to leave this open. I'll find that issue and link it here under the word SAST, so that we'll know this one is likely to get pushed if the prerequisite doesn't get complete.
It's in the description. It's mentioned in the issue description because they are very tied together.
This one? No, that's the epic.
The line above. Yeah.
All right. Copy. All right. Just because I know there are customers interested in this, so I want to be clear, like the conditions under which it'll push. There we go. All right. So after that, this one wasn't, I know this sounds like an awesome goal, but I'm not sure all the work involved in this, but making automatic documentation updates for options being leveraged in dependency scans.
Now that we've moved the documentation from those custom projects to the main GitLab documentation, it's a bit tedious to go there and update it each time we're changing the project. So it was thought to find a way to automatically extract that documentation from the code itself, leveraging some tools. But as we're going to remove the orchestration layer, we'll probably have to drop some of the work we'll be doing here. So again, as the documentation has been pushed or is being pushed right now, it's already accurate, and we have upcoming merge requests to update it as far as we are pushing changes to the code itself. So I don't think this is a very high priority, and this is a backend change, by the way. So it doesn't bring value to the customer. It will just make our life easier when we are updating things.
I know that there have been at least 2 customers complaining that it takes, there's a delay of like 1 release or 1 month between when something changes and the docs get updated, sometimes slightly longer. And that it might be due to capacity on our docs team or something else, I'm not sure. So
it was mainly due to the fact that it wasn't there first. So it was not part of the usual process when implementing a feature to put the documentation there. So people had to refer to the README of the project, and it was not straightforward. But now that we have, by default, the documentation there and not anymore in the README, part of the issue that mentioned to update the documentation as the developer, the engineer, to change the documentation on the GitLab doc. So I don't expect this behavior to happen again unless the engineer is missing, like where we are missing the usage ping or things like that. But in the normal process, the documentation should be kept up to date. And we have now checkboxes. So if you go through the issue and the checkbox is not ticked, you might expect to ask the engineer to complete the work before closing the issue.
All right, so like this should move to backlog because it's a large amount of work for a small amount of value, or like somebody should just do an eval on this?
Maybe we can keep it for grooming and see if there is a needed tool to do that. I haven't read out the proposal there, and if there is already a tool, but I think it's probably with a Go package that does that automatically. But again, the issue is that we are going to change drastically architecture by removing the orchestrator. So the main goal here was to explore the option generated automatically for the orchestrator and the common command project listed there, the two first options, the two first bullet in the
And
description.
that's supposed to go away like soon.
Yeah, that will go away, yeah, with the removal of Docker in Docker.
Which is probably 2 to 3 releases off to really get it out of everything though. So I guess let's change this to an evaluation. And if it's like a super easy to do thing, we might still want to do it since we've got 3 or 4 releases. But if it's not a super easy thing, then I think getting rid of it makes sense. So update. Once we move away from Docker and Docker, this will no longer actually needed. To see how much work this is and
I think it's a good trade-off because the evaluation will be useful to document, to do the same work for all the analyzer, which will stay even after the removal of the orchestrator. So worth it. So
yeah, let's at least find out how much work it is and will that meet our needs. All right, so next is right source integration. So there's a third party, there's actually a lot of third parties that want to integrate with us. And I guess the questions sort of are, I know we have some APIs for some of our things right now, and I know we're cleaning up some of our back-end logic so that like our reports are more consolidated. But I guess for this one, what work is actually needed? Like, I don't want us to do any kind of integration work, but like in order to have APIs for people to push and pull data, what are we missing? Like what backend cleanup, what infrastructure cleanup is needed? So would one investigation be sufficient to kind of evaluate what we're missing, or do we need more than one evaluation?
I'm not sure this is worth investigating in that case, particularly. By the way, this is a confidential issue, so we cannot publish that video recording publicly.
Okay. I'll just put it in my share folder.
This is a bit annoying. You can publish it on the unfiltered under YouTube channel under private visibility. So yeah, white source is one case of integration, but
there's
still
also contrast security and Sonar Cube. There's like a bunch of different ones who are all interested in integrating.
Yeah. So we need a generic way to integrate, and as you mentioned, there are two different ways. One is pull, one is push to integrate. And if you look at the Epic, we don't have a link to the Epic yet, but the Epic about integration of third parties.
Yeah, the Epic, I thought this was in there. Anyway, here it is.
Okay, so last comment, I've explained a bit what's the current state and what can we provide for push and pull today and what are the limitations of those. So to quickly recap this, we need first-class vulnerability to provide a meaningful API to push data to the dashboards. We currently have a pull API that is reliable enough, I'd say. It's still in alpha stage, but I mean, at least they can get the data right now, but the structure of the content might change a bit, but it's working right now. So you can pull the data from what is shown in the group dashboard and the project dashboard. But we need the first-class vulnerability to provide a reliable push.
Okay, to be able to go both directions. So first, let me link.
And this will solve the push of data for the dashboards. But if you want to push the data to the report, merge request widget and pipeline view, this might need further investigation, because there we have more constraints about how you can identify the vulnerabilities so that we can dedupe them and do some operations on them. So it's a bit harder. You can do it right now. Actually, you should just have a job that outputs a report, a JSON report that is matching our format. That will work, but there are a lot of deep constraint on the property that this report will contain, and it's hard to explain those. They are not well documented, and there is no way to clearly validate that. So even if it works, it might generate some weird behavior because of the logic that we are of the manipulation that we are operating on this JSON report that is internal knowledge right now.
So right now I'm pushing it to 12.5. It might need to go slightly longer. But once we decide how we're doing the back end of first-class vulnerabilities, I think going back to your comment and looking at this, and maybe looking also at contrast security, and then have someone work with me to come up with what is an MVC for, like, what documentation do we need to improve, you know, what do we need to possibly add to the API in order to offer a generic API. So yeah, push it, but for 12, let's aim for an eval in 12.5 right now and keep our fingers crossed we've got first-class vulns ready and we can actually do a deep dive on that then. And then I added it to the epic so it doesn't get lost. And then the next three ones are items that I saw for Gymnasium, because I know we're trying to do some work around that. And I'm not sure if any more issues are going to pop up as a result of the work on the architecture. But I figured we need to kind of at least keep a couple issues related to that in each one of our releases so that we're making progress on that. So I've got the API endpoint to patch and advisory.
Yes, this one is also on server side. So depending on the outcome of the discovery of whether or not we are keeping this architecture. So this one should probably be delayed, but the other one are interesting to be kept because those are for the work before putting data into the repository. So to make it clear to everyone, we have several steps in the process of feeding the database. So we're taking external sources, fetching the data from them and putting them into the Gymnasium repository. And from them, we are curating the data, normalizing it, and pushing it to the PostgreSQL database to be consumed by the API. So we need the data to be on the server side to be consumed by the dependency scanning. But all this work is currently a bit paused because of the current discussion about the client-server architecture. But all the work, the work to fetch that external sources data and put that into the repository is worthwhile, because if we switch from the client-server architecture, we will rely only on this repository. So this is still very valuable.
All right, so these two still should stay in as high, and this one may get adjusted based on the other item. And then I have a feeling as 12.2 happens, we may find more items, which generally happens. So you can let me know if more things are found and need to come over here. Go away, little pop-up. I have no idea how to make it go away. All right, so setup.py in dependency scanning. This seemed like this just allows us to support other types of project setups for dependencies.
Yeah, this is yet another way to set up your Python project. This probably needs to be grown. I am not sure about the required work for that. Probably need to sync with engineers on this, but this makes sense. I mean, this is not dependent of the changes in the architecture, so we can work on that.
All right. Because yeah, there's been customers have been requesting a lot of different flavors of like, I'm set up this way and I'm set up that way. So unless everyone tells me, because right now I think we support like a certain set of languages, and it looks like there's a lot of different ways to enable those languages. So unless someone tells me like this is silly, anything for those already supported languages that's an additional setting, I'm probably going to try and get one in per release just so that we have a breadth of customer setting options to support, unless somebody introduces some new language, because I don't think I want to like jump into the new language, because doesn't that require like a new scanner or something? Yeah, okay. Improve the usefulness of results by being case insensitive. Yes, please. This seems like very important for not having weird variations on our report. So hopefully this is defined well enough that we can do this one. It's got back end and front end work apparently.
Yeah, I just put it out from 12.1 before the meeting. It was stuck there, and there was ongoing discussion because there was a lot of investigation on this topic. To be fully honest, we had less knowledge than expected on license management, and I had to dig through the code of this. And the outcome is that we could fix that on the front end side, but now that we are refactoring, I mean, this issue is a bit old now, but now that we are refactoring the logic into the backend, this issue is probably not accurate anymore, and we need to reevaluate this. I mean, the intent itself is still meaningful. We still need to do that, but the implementation is probably not accurate anymore because we want to put all the logic in the backend, so there is probably less work on the front end involved there. So,
right. So I'm going to solve, blah, 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 further details, proposal. Notes. Would you say the move of comparison or the move of business logic into the back end?
all of them. The move of the report logic for either the single point API like pipeline view or project dashboard eventually, but possibly, but also for the measure request comparison. I mean, all the logic has to be moved from the front end to the back end so that we have only one place to implement such things. So we need to double check that and sync with Lucas.
All right, so that's the note. When we do the grooming on this, someone can double check in and see if anything else needs to adjust as a result of that. Because yeah, 2 places is twice as much work for only the same amount of value. This one is actually very cool looking. I don't know if everyone's gotten a chance to see it, but there's a desire to kind of move around some of the way we display our vulnerability stuff. Let's see. Oop, I think this one's a pretty good picture. So like it's a side, I don't know if you'd call it a popover or a slide out or a drawer, but ta-da, information shows up right there instead of in a popover that hides things. It just kind of pushes over from the right. So the main idea is we would like to introduce that drawer, which I think is going to be a majority front end work, but I think that someone will have to double check and see if there is any work needed on the back end. So this is probably going to be, I'm going to tag it in both, and if somebody then finds out there is no back end work needed to support this, then we can remove that. But
yeah, you need to double check with Lucas on this one because there are a lot of ongoing refactor. Again, moving the logic from the front end to the back end involve a lot of changes in all the components in the front end code. And I know that, yeah, a lot of work there. And this is a transversal change. I mean, it's impacting the merge request widgets, the pipeline view, the dashboards. So they will definitely prefer to do that after the refactor is done and they have kind of one unique component to display the vulnerability.
Yeah, if that's gonna roll past 2.2, we'll push this to 2.4. So we definitely need to check on this. But there are some really neat UX improvements that have been done by Kyle and Andy. So when the prerequisites for those are done, I would like to jump on them to make our stuff a little more friendly. And this one, no. So show a warning when the dependency list is not up to date. I think
Wasn't that blocked by the ability to get some states from the pipeline? Because we definitely need to improve the UX on this, but the issue is, do we have
maybe blocked on it?
the logic behind to get that state in a
So here was saying to make a distinct status. So is that blocked?
Huh. This one is easy to find out. I wasn't expecting that kind of states. I should reread the issue.
So this one seems like it's a bit of a hack, as best I could tell, but it's better than what we have. So I am embracing of that. So if you want to check and see if this one is still blocked, because I know the thing we discussed is that we don't really have a great way to check all states of all pipelines. Like there's not a great way to do that right now.
Okay, actually, this one is a bit different. It's just to tell whether or not your merge request is a bit outdated. Like, if you created a branch some times ago and there was a lot of different commit pushed to the master branch, you're outdated, you're late. And we are comparing your branch with something old. So as you might see in the merge request UI, you can see your branch is behind master for 100 commits. And we don't have anything equivalent to say, okay, but the dependency list you're seeing there is not matching what you have in master. And this is the exact same issue for all the security vulnerabilities. So here, instead of saying,
this one isn't saying like this failed or this didn't run. It's just saying you're out of date.
Yeah, that's it. So makes sense, can do it, no blocker from our side.
Awesome. Yeah, I know there's like a whole bunch of issues around failed items. Like we can't detect failed items, but I don't think there's a solution for that yet.
Fabian, interesting discussion with Thomas from CI/CD. So we might have better support that we expected in the first place.
Awesome. All right. I did not put this bug in this morning. Surprise, new bug. What is this? Vendor Go dependencies report a lot of licenses is unknown.
It wasn't 12.12, I think.
Okay, so this is surprise sneaky bug.
I follow your advice. I went through 12.1 items before the call.
Which is perfect. So, all right, so I will push this back up to the top because it is a bug, and I really would like us to knock out bugs. I'm trying to understand. We should improve the experience. I don't see an implementation checkbox, so I'm guessing this has to get groomed.
Yeah, it has to be investigated. Again, I think it's tied to the upstream project. Like in some cases, license finder is not accurate. It's not finding dependencies, whether it looks easy to find them. So you need to dig deeper.
All right. This one is another UX improvement item. And apparently we want to replace the current icon and be able to say whether things are approved or whitelisted, like be more specific about their state. So if anyone has questions about the intent for this one, you get to boop Kyle.
There is no UX or UX ready label to this issue. Is the solution a proposal or a final solution?
I'm pretty sure that this part is final.
Because there are to be defined item there, so I'm expecting.
Yeah, the first one I'm going to follow up and be like, I need a choice, like pick one, please. But the rest of these are, I'm getting rid of the TBD. We're doing whitelisted. So right now we're calling everything whitelisted. I believe when interacting with licenses, right? You can whitelist a license in the dropdown. So I will get that finalized, but essentially we need to use the correct words instead of little iconographies. So I'll boop Kyle, and then when you guys get a chance to look at this, then we can continue to boop him more to get this cleaned up. But it should just be changing out icons for words. So my question is, do we right now have in the backend information whether the license is approved or unknown in the backend being passed already? Because if we do, then this should only be front end work. And let me make it bigger so maybe people can see what I'm talking about.
As currently everything is done on the front end side, I assume this should be done as part of the logic of the move logic to the backend epic, but I'm pretty sure this has been done because we want to provide the same state, so we should be fine.
All right. So then the prerequisite work will probably already been complete. I'm going to follow up with Kyle because we should just, no TBDs. So this looks like it's just a carry-on piece of work that was chopped off another item, and there's a lot of to-do. So do we know what the to-do is yet?
Sorry, my baby is sick and my wife was just asking me. This is an addition to the API, the public dependency list API, not the public dependency list API, sorry. The public dependency list API, sorry, my mind is a bit mixed. We currently have shipped in 12.1 the dependency list API, public endpoint API, and we are now in 12.2 adding dependency scanning information, so vulnerabilities in that list to improve it, but in the view only. So we have to do that in the API also. So it's just improving the output of the existing API endpoints.
Is 12.3 likely or?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll leave that there. And then we have two engineering discoveries that are currently in here. And one is the client server architecture, which I think work has already sort of started on this, but it wasn't assigned to 12.1 or 12.2, so I just assigned it to 12.3 because I'm guessing that it might take a little while to do all of the research and have meetings and discuss with everyone. If I should move it into 12.2 instead, I can do that. I'm just trying to put it in the milestone where we think we're actually going to be able to make a decision.
Fabian will be in vacation next week, and yeah, there's a lot of to do on this one. You already did one iteration of answer there. I mean, I don't think it's worth putting that in 12.2, but obviously we should have a decision taken in 12.3. So you can either put it in 12.2 and have people keep discussing that because it has a huge impact. But I think that from engineering perspective, there won't be a lot of work done in 12.2.
All right, so I will leave it in 12.3 with the goal by the end of 12.3, like that work has already started, or I shouldn't say work, discussions have already started, discussions will continue, and by the end of 12.3, we will have made decisions. All right. And then the other one is performance metrics, and this one I kind of feel like is in the same boat where discussions probably should start happening in 12.2, but I'd really like finalized plans for everything to be done by the end of 12.3.
Yeah, and actually I was expecting more you or Kenny to drive that kind of issues, because
Okay.
I mean, we obviously need to also have an engineering look at this, because whether or not
I
we
don't
need to
know,
tell you
like,
whether or not we can count what you want to count, and if it is scalable and available
I
and
sort of need to
self-managed. But
know like what the underlying items are. So when I was doing sysadministration on SQL databases, I knew IOPS were important, memory swap was important, remaining disk was important, and CPU was important. So I am not sure for each one of our items what they leverage in order to operate. So if you want to let me know which engineers' brains I should pick, I can start digging through on that, because I need some rough idea of the area in which we are most likely to run into a wall, so that I can start researching like what do I want to know as a result.
okay, I think here mainly the issue is about the size of the Docker images that we have to download. For example, for license management, we have a more than 1 gigabyte Docker image to download at each run. So this is obviously where we can improve performance. But the goal here was to at least define one that we can start tracking and ensure that we are not getting worse over time, so that we integrate those metrics check within our QA process as a
That
first
we have
step.
an idea of a baseline.
Yeah. And then later improve them if we can, hopefully.
All right, so I'm going to temporarily assign this to me to start, but like I said, I'm not sure what items we have in the underlying structure, so I might just start with like, I'd like to know how long something takes, and I'd like to know, so for example, what's the wait time and what's the amount of resources used by the customer, might be like my first vague thing that I want to know. And so I need someone to help me figure out what does that look like for each item. Like, how do I know? Like you said, resources used for customers, I've got to download a 1 gigabyte thing onto local storage or something. So if somebody can just help me translate those. All right. And then I'll just reiterate the reason why I only put 20 in, we're down to 19 now, is because we have been not nailing the 100%, and I have a feeling that 12.2 items are going to roll into here, and I feel if I put any more than 20 in, that would be overly ambitious and not reasonable. Does anyone feel that 20 was overly ambitious and unreasonable and I should knock any of these down?
It's hard to say. I know you're looking for feedback, but I haven't experienced the full iteration yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we know what the previous iterations were as far as what we completed? And is that being used as the guide?
I do have rough numbers, but the problem is many of the numbers are before the split, and then we sort of had numbers in the split, and then front end is on both teams, so the numbers are all squishy. So yes, I did base the 20 on some numbers that I had, but the numbers are kind of squishy.
Did we previously track velocity based on weight of issues that were? No, okay.
That's why it's interesting to start using them in 12.3. Thomas' team was doing experimentation with the last 2 releases, and now that it seemed they have good feedback from it, we can start doing it on our side too. So yeah, things to consider: the split, the fact that the team has doubled in size within the next month, the previous month, sorry, and keep growing. So it's not really able talking just about issues, and obviously there is no way there. So Another thing to consider is the fact that not everybody in the team is able to tackle all the issues. We have issues split amongst two different main skills, Golang and Ruby on Rails. So some of the issues are definitely not able to be taken by some of the people in the team. We are aiming at putting everybody at the same level and be able to tackle everything, but it's not the case right now. So it's hard to tell you right now. I need to go through all of these issues, consider assignments, and make sure that we have enough capacity as a team, but also as each individual. For example, Fabian is going to be on vacation a lot during the next iteration. So that means we have very, very few bandwidth on Go side. Obviously, Adam has joined us, so we'll be able to lower that issue, but you get the point.
I guess we're going to take away a little bit of time from the existing devs to help ramp up the new devs just a tiny bit.
Also, yeah.
And hopefully I'll be ready to help you guys out when you need my help.
All right, so great. If anybody had anything they wanted to review in any of these or 12.2 items, go in, ask comments. I'm going to boop Kyle on that one. But the main idea is I want to know as many questions as possible now. So this way I've got 1, 2, 3 weeks to get answers. And then we can decide that, oh no, this needs to go because we didn't get the answers we need, instead of scrambling at the last minute. So that's why I'm attempting to get ahead of the curve. Hopefully we will be having these meetings, mid-month going forward, and then more frequently as I can get ahead of myself, so that we're asking questions earlier and earlier. So UX, research, anything else we need, we have before we start.
Sounds good.
Yay. Thanks, everybody. I will put this in my Google Drive and share it out for anybody who couldn't make it. And I will go and update some of the issues.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.